Jennifer Hoops, Jason Amador-Locher. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's nice
Hi.
to be here.
Dude, there's a lot of action going on here from the booth here at Higharc. So I appreciate you guys taking some time to chat. I think we're going to start off with doing a little throwback. We haven't done this in a long time, but we're going to start off with what we call our first four. So get ready. Jennifer, I'm going to start with you. We're going to go 2-2-2-2. So just roll with me. Jennifer, can
Yes.
you name for me the first music album you either purchased or received?
The first album I ever received was Whitney Houston's Dance.
Ooh, all right.
Yeah, that
Classic.
dates me a little bit, doesn't it?
It dates all of us.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
sure. But no, you're fine. First concert you attended?
My first concert, believe it or not, was Aerosmith. And
great.
it's still one of the best that I've ever been to.
What was the venue?
It was an outdoor venue.
Okay.
I don't remember the name of it, but it was hot and it rained a little bit, but it was still like super, it was so much fun.
And you grew up in Ohio. Was this around
I did.
Ohio?
Yeah, it was in Ohio. Yep.
What part of Ohio?
I went to college at Miami near Cincinnati.
Okay.
So this venue was near Cincinnati.
Got it. All right.
Yeah.
So we're going to jump over. Jason, same two questions. First music album purchased or received?
That was the Thompson Twins.
Ooh, hey, there you go.
Yes.
All right. Concert.
Steppenwolf.
Wow.
Eclectic
Yes.
mix. You got it there.
Kind of an accident seeing Steppenwolf at the Ventura County Fairgrounds in California.
Got it.
Yeah.
And you grew up in Ventura.
In Ventura County, yes.
Got it. Okay.
Uh-huh.
By the way, you went to college where?
Humboldt State University in
Mascot?
Lumberjacks.
Boom.
Yes,
Perfect.
chopping.
Chopping. On point. Okay. Jennifer, back to you.
Yep.
First job and first car.
My first job was at the Dairy Dipper. It's an ice cream parlor.
Okay.
In my small town where I grew up. I was 14. So I literally made ice cream cones all summer. That was my first real job.
That's a dream for many people that age.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was fun. It was my friends, it was cool.
Yeah.
My first car was a 76 Volkswagen Beetle.
Color?
Bright orange.
Bright orange.
Stick shift. Loved that car. Bought it myself. It was epic.
That is epic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jason,
sir.
first job, first car.
First job, we were avocado farmers. And so I had to climb avocado trees and throw them down to my sisters, and we'd harvest 3 tons a year. So that was my first job.
This is why I do the show. Every
It's
now
so
and then
cool.
someone says something like, we were avocado farmers. And I did not see that coming. How tall in general are avocado trees?
These were about 80 feet, and they would hold about half a ton each tree. So a good catcher's mitt and some bravery.
That's amazing.
Sorry, I heard catcher's mitt.
Yeah.
What?
So my sister would have a catcher's mitt, and I would throw them down to her, and she would catch them. Then Mom would snip them, and Dad would wrap them, and we'd put them in a bin.
You have only one sibling? Is it a family of 4?
I have 2 sisters.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because normally, of all the, I don't know, Jennifer, I don't know about you in Ohio, but of all the avocado farmers I know, they have lots of kids. Because they're
Yeah.
just going to put them, they have 11 kids.
Yeah.
You're going to be climbing 80-foot avocado
Just a few
trees.
of us.
This-
Only 2 participated, so yeah. It's all good.
That's fantastic. All right, Jennifer, I do want to start with you. Tell me
Yep.
about your first, I'm going to clarify, IBS experience, IBS in the terms of the International Builder Show.
Yes, thank you for that clarification.
Yes.
So actually, this is interesting. My parents were custom home builders my whole life. My first builder show was when I was 12 years old. And I literally walked the floor. It was in Orlando. And I remember standing at some of the big plumbing manufacturers' booths and just taking it all in. And I have been often since then. And it's always an event I really look forward to.
How did that experience of growing up around entrepreneurs and custom home builders,
Yeah.
how did that shape kind of your future? When did you know
Yeah.
something in this realm is something that I want to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I went to school for architecture and
Okay.
urban planning. I knew I wanted to be somewhere in the construction business. I went to a traditional architecture firm for a few years, and I discovered I really missed housing. It's
Okay.
creating the places where people spend the time with their families, and it felt very meaningful to me, and I wasn't getting that in the typical architecture firm environment.
Yeah.
So I ended up coming back to home building. very early in my career. I spent the most valuable years of my career on the job site at my parents' company. And learned from the framer, got yelled at, fell in the mud, just like everything that is the proper home building experience, I think was the most formative years. And that's also what made me, fall even deeper in love with the industry as a whole.
I love that.
Yeah.
Jason, what about you? What was the draw? Well, I promise I'll stop talking about the avocado farm at some point.
That's fine.
When did you know this whole avocado farming thing isn't for me? I want to do something else. And how were you drawn into construction and building?
Well, my father's day job was that he was a mathematician for the Naval Space Program.
Oh.
And so there was a heavy math and physics presence in my household. So we were always creating and building and doing something, be it restoring vintage vehicles or building contraptions. So there's always a creative, technical side. I really discovered that out of college. I majored in industrial technology and engineering, and immediately found myself out in Hawaii doing structural design for high-rises overseas. And it was like something clicked immediately, and fell in love with the process, but was just like what Jennifer was saying, I was drawn to the intimacy of home building, where there's a face, there's a family on it, instead of just an investor. Just for me, it was more fulfilling to be in the home building side. So it was a long evolution, but once it clicked, it stayed. Yeah,
I'm interested maybe just to learn a little bit more about maybe some sort of leadership or management principles. I'm well aware that Hawaii is one of our 50 states. However, having spent a little bit of time there, culturally it can be very different. And obviously from home building, kind of structural, vertical construction, commercial, is very different there. Were there any sort of leadership or management principles that you picked up from your time there on how to get along with people and, how to do your part to kind of move this industry forward?
Absolutely. Respect the culture and the environment and don't invade it. That was a big part of the design process. Like you don't use brick in Hawaii. It just doesn't exist. And so changing how we designed retaining walls and exterior finishes to use lava rock, right? Respecting that and using the details and integrating the culture and the environment into the designs. So that creates more of a symbiotic type of relationship with people who may not even be the home owner. Yeah. It's just the people of the community.
No, that's thoughtful, and I think sometimes this has worked really well. We know it pencils. We're just going to take this idea of decentralized manufacturing. We built this with these people in this way, and it was profitable, and we're going to take this and we're going to plop it down over here. And sometimes you get this where these things you can tell they do not fit in the overall environment. And yeah, it takes extra work, and yeah, it takes more time to be thoughtful, and sometimes it takes extra money. But I think to your point, if you can build a reputation for doing that in a way that makes it easy to build, that goes a long way for sure. Yeah. So Jennifer, you and I kind of passed somehow. I knew your name, knew of you when I was leaving Pulte, and you were there.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about growing up in the custom home building world and then working for some of the name brand names that are in production housing. How was that shift for you, and what were your kind of key takeaways that you think about now at Higharc?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think the biggest consistent theme that I've seen through even the small custom home builder that my parents operated as, all the way through to the big guys, everyone is really trying to do a good job. Everyone wants to create good homes for people. And I really ended up at my current job because I believe that technology is a barrier for mass production in a way that is still sensitive to the buyer. I think that sometimes builders get a bad rap of, it's a tract builder, they're just doing everything the same. It's somehow looked down upon, when in reality, it's not. I mean, those are very well-built houses. They spend a ton of time and effort making sure that they're high quality and well-designed and all of those things. And I think to go the next step, we have to come together and understand what about our systems today is making it difficult for us to really, truly deliver the type of home that people are demanding today.
Yeah. Well, I think anyone who's been in construction for the least amount of time, or maybe you're not even in it, but you had an addition on your home,
right.
as a child or an adult, or you've built a new home. It is a lot of good people,
Exactly.
talented people working really hard and finding that these different systems don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
And the elevation thing that you signed off on is really just a standalone document that isn't really linked to the blueprints. And we can't give you the blueprints because Lord knows if you actually go measure this and it's not right, you're going to sue us. Jason, you told a story that you talked about. You said you can correct my misremembering if that's a thing, but you said, there's a story that I'd like you to share. And you said, it took me 8 months to figure out and track down the accurate finger pointing, but that's what we do a lot of times. And we have people that, when things go well, I'll say, there's nothing more that I love being able to point to homes and communities and things and say, I was part of that. I played a small part of that. And now people live there and love it and are creating memories. That's when it goes well. If it goes bad, like I just show up every day and fight with each other and back charges and invoices, and these guys are trying to change order profitability. This is the worst job in the world. So we're going to get to kind of how you guys came together here at Higharc, but maybe just tell me that story about kind of the finger pointing and some of the lessons you learned the hard way there.
Absolutely. Well, we were doing about 700 houses a year in Texas, built on your lot.
Okay.
And I was the head of research and development with about 40 draftsmen working in BIM. And we would export XML files to go to our purchasing department. And one of my positions there was to communicate with the folks in the field. So if they were short on some material, they would contact me, and I would have to go through the BIM model and look at the estimating side and see where the error was. Was it a waste factor? Was it supply chain? Was it a drafting error? And when I would submit my findings, the result was somebody pointing their finger back saying it had to have been you or somebody on your team, or it had to be them or somebody on their team. And honestly, I would get excited when I would find that I could pinpoint the mistake and say, this is what happened and we can fix this. But it led to a lot of distrust and discord between separate departments. Really the root of the whole thing was that these separate silos just weren't communicating.
Yeah.
And so if those silos don't communicate, you got to blame somebody, or somebody has to take responsibility for that. And it can't just be a disconnected wire between the silos.
Yeah.
Finding that wire is next to impossible. And it takes years and years and years between waste factors and supply chain and human errors. And it just comes down to 1-0 and 1-1 were flipped. And that's it, right?
Yeah, I think that's what makes it, that's what drives builders to make the decision to offer less, to go through consistency. And ultimately, that's the decision that separates the customer from the journey that they want to be on. So in order for us to tackle what Jason's describing, we've got to simplify. We've got to do it more the same. We've got to, get aligned, everybody on this same one path, so that we can eliminate these silos, these mistakes, these conversations about who did what. Now, meanwhile, we have the buyer on the other side who is living in a home that may or may not be accurately or suited well for their lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that's the mission that I'm on, is we should be able to provide people with more choice and more relatable homes in the end.
Yeah, I'm going to prompt you to go a little bit deeper in that from a customer perspective, because you might have folks who, are on vertical construction or heavy highway, or maybe a manufacturer or in distribution to builders. All of us at some level have been involved in a home buying experience to some degree. So maybe tell me a little bit of kind of your mission on how to make it easier. As we think about the person who says, yes, if you can do that and you can make it easy and I can understand that, I'm willing to pay more because I'm going to live in this thing for a long time and have it really be suited for me and my family. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, it brings to mind a specific example. A plan that was designed in the South was very successful, sold all the time. It's a great plan, right? It has a small, what we would call a mudroom, with a little bit of a boot bench.
Yep.
We took that plan and we were going to build it in Minnesota. So we were asking people about the house, what do you think about this model? And we had never really considered that in the South, the small mudroom is okay because it's the South, the weather's great, right? But here in Minnesota, the people were like, what am I going to do with my boots, in my coat, in my hockey bag, in all of my stuff, right? So we were not able to make an adjustment to that plan to accommodate a very typical real life story.
Yeah.
You know, you're walking in over top of everyone's shoes and boots and coats in Minnesota, and it's very difficult for that builder to be agile enough to make us. It should be a simple change, right? We should be able to change the size of that room to accommodate that realistic need. You know, that's the kind of thing that I think buyers deserve, is the ability to choose spaces that actually impact their life. Yeah. If my kid can hang up their coat on the hook and I don't have to walk over it, I'm a happier person.
Yes.
Right? Like, that's simple.
I got kids. There's only 2 of them. I'm like, why? Why do you always put your shoes here?
Yes.
They're like, there's too much stuff over there. Yeah. And somewhere, someone on your team, surely a customer looked at it and said, listen, open floor plan, family room and the kitchen's all together. My whole family will be together. I just want you to, if you're listening to this audio, you won't see it. I'm pushing my hands. I just want you to push this wall, slide over.
Exactly.
And you're like, right, I get it.
Right.
Sounds easy. Can't do it.
It's so hard, man. It'll take me 8 months to move that wall.
Right.
Yeah.
Impossible. It costs $1 million.
Yeah.
Jason, I do want to hear your story, knowing that I'm fascinated with what you guys are doing, and part of the trends that we're kind of following are innovation, technology, in an industry, home building specifically, that for many is somewhat innovation resistant. You were a prospect for Higharc.
I was.
You were investigating this to some degree, and you said, you know what, I have an interesting idea. Maybe tell me that story and how you ended up here.
Absolutely. Well, there's a lot to it, and I think it pertains to some of the earlier questions too. Is one of the limiting factors in what we were doing was that we couldn't offer a lot of options, right? Because of the lack of option management in current platforms. We limited the amount of options because it was inundating our estimating department, our purchasing, and our design and drafting department of having thousands of files to spit out XMLs. And so what this did was it put the salespeople in a position to start customizing on their own. Okay. And it's very difficult to estimate those rapidly and accurately. So that the options were limited. And we were in a position where we couldn't really grow anymore. We just offer more plans with less options. Yeah. And that was part of my task, was to find a solution. And so Higharc phoned up and said, we'd like to show you this thing. And it is the first time that I ever saw options managed in a rapid, functional, holistic way that made sense.
Do you mind if I just interrupt quickly? When you said, how did they frame this thing? I want you to check this thing out. How did they frame, and do you remember kind of the marketing language or the words they used that had you say, all right, this is worth my time to check out? Because, I mean, here at IBS and beyond, there are this claim of software's a thing, home building's a thing, mix them up together, boom, problem solved. And yet many of us have gone down this path and are like, yeah, that doesn't work. Yeah. And now we waste time and money finding that. Do you remember how they framed it in a way that you're like, all right, I'm going to start investigating this?
Absolutely. Well, over the last 25 years in the industry, I've seen these presentations, and we get 3 or 4 of them a year. Of this new BIM, right? This one silo, but it's not. And so we've never made that move. It's usually the octopus approach, where you have a plan with all the options floating around it in one file, and it tries to compile that and produce a lot-specific file. And we've done that, and it didn't work. Okay. It didn't work, and it took years just to see one file. The presentation that was given to me wasn't even worded, it was shown. Okay. Right? And somebody who's been through the ringer trying to figure out options and centralized data knows when they see the real thing, and this is the first time I've ever seen it in my career. So when I saw it in action, I submitted my resume for consideration that day. And I was in a tenured position of seniority where I was planning on retiring from this company, in 40 years, maybe 30. But I had no plan to make a shift in my career whatsoever. And it was so profound that I walked away from a tenured career with retirement and seniority and came onto a tech startup because what they're doing has never been done before. And when I saw it, I knew that this was my dream job. And they hired me, which is amazing. So tell me how this integrates here. Maybe this goes to kind of the vision.
you kind of talked about before, kind of your mission, Jennifer. Tell me a little bit about the vision. Give me the short term. Give me like 3 years from now. Obviously, we talked to Matt Collins and we talked to Marissa Farrig of Buffington Homes, kind of some of their pain points in general, but also how Higharc is alleviating some of those. Do me a favor and give me the short-term vision. Fast forward 3 years.
Yeah.
What are the primary pain points that will be eliminated by what you guys are doing here today? And maybe you're saying, hey, we're already solving this problem today.
Yeah.
But we're going to continue to build this because I have a whole takeoff rant that comes up often on takeoffs and how that's tied in. But ultimately, it comes down to what are we trying to build and how is it coming from a single place? And the phrase that I've heard that I then asked, this idea of a single source of truth.
Yeah.
Homeowner, tradesman, builder, everybody purchasing, everybody says, yeah, I go right here. This is where the truth lies. And we all agree and we all build trust around that. Again, I think it's kind of been the vision for a long time, been tough to find reality. So again, kind of maybe next kind of 3 years, where are you guys going and how many of those pain points are you going to alleviate?
I think to answer your question, you have to start by defining the problem. So if you think of it, the way that home builders manage data today, we build the Bradley house, right? And everybody comes along and puts their data for that into the Bradley house. The plumber, the purchasing guys, the marketing people, everybody's working on the Bradley. And then you know what? We're going to build the Jason house. Mm-hmm. And so we do the same thing over and over and over again. But don't the Bradley and the Jason have the same types of data? They both have windows, they both have doors, walls, all of the things, right? So if you think of, instead of managing your data out in these home files, what Higharc is doing is asking you, what choices do you want to make available for windows in your organization? And we push the data out to the home plans. So the pain points that we're solving are actual consistency throughout. The ability to actually sell online is blocked today by this disconnect. Yep. It's impossible for the purchasing agent to buy the window and guarantee that it's accurate on the website. I remember walking into sales centers and just cringing when you saw that 2D floor plan on the thing. You're like, oh no, where did that come from? Like, I didn't make that, and I maintain the plans.
Yes.
Right. So like that's the biggest issue. It's disconnected material information up and down the chain as it's represented to the buyer, to the construction person, to the sales agent. You know, if we can't guarantee that what we're presenting to all aspects of the business is accurate, I don't think we're ever going to change anything. We're never going to get to online buying. We're never going to get to accurate photo reel because it's simply impossible to manage by humans. Yeah. So Higharc's really flipping that upside down, and we're managing the content first and pushing it out to the homes second.
No, that's helpful. And when I come to shows like these and you see all these different products and all these different things, some that are like, oh, that's awesome, I want that. I often just kind of think of this idea of the tyranny of choice, which is that I think would look amazing on the front of a house.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, how might it match up with this color? And human beings aren't good at looking at a small 12-inch by 12-inch sample of something or a little thing of brick and saying, how might it all match? And then all of a sudden you're just like, dude, what's the easiest way to kind of visualize this in a way that allows me, kind of like the video game, just to like, oh, that's what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is kind of so compelling here.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, Bradley, if I could just interject and bring this home, the biggest problem in home building is information, either lack of or wrong information, and that's caused by disconnects, right? And what's happening here is that we're creating a central source of truth, right? So that there is information across the entire spectrum of the process, right? From design to estimating to sales and marketing, so that when the homeowner selects a house, that is what they get. And that's accurately estimated and displayed in construction documentation. This has never been done before and is a very, very powerful next generation tool.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Jason. And the other thing it brings to mind is right now in the industry, we need to adjust. You know, things are rapidly changing, and in order for you to stay ahead and stay on plan even, you're going to have to make changes in your business. We actually have a really good story. Jason was a part of this story with our client Buffington Homes, where we were able to make a land deal happen for them. We reduced a product to market timeline that they would have been at 6 to 8 months. We reduced it to 30 days. So by thinking about how you run your business strategy and aligning that with our system, we're able to really give you the agility to move quickly. And at the same time, clarity, like to your point, Jason, reducing errors, setting clear expectations with your buyers, really streamlining the whole process, I think is where Higharc really succeeds.
Yeah. The other element of that story, Jason, I heard was that some or all of this may or may not have happened on Christmas or Christmas Eve. I'm not sure that is scalable long-term from a family perspective, but that says a lot about, I think, you, Jason, as an individual, but also about Higharc.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's exciting. Well, I'm going to continue to investigate and noodle, trying to figure out this way that we can do this better.
Yeah.
But this idea that, there's this huge opportunity, we can take advantage of this. Typical timeline, 6 to 8 months. And we're like, why? We get some smart people working together. It has a system that syncs us all, and now we can shave that down by 90%.
Yeah.
I want to know part of that. I want to be part of that. So, hey, I know you guys are really busy. Jennifer, Jason, I appreciate you making time. Thank you.
Thank you so much.